Here we are, Real Recovery Talk. I am your host, Tom Conrad. In today's episode, we've got Benjamin B.
What's happening, everyone?
And we also got a gentleman by the name of Joey.
Joey, yes.
Joey's got a lot of energy, I must say.
Yeah.
This is going to be a fun one.
Okay, let's go.
First things first, thank you for tuning in on the podcast app, whichever one that you choose to use, and thank you for watching on YouTube. In the end, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, you could always reach us, Tom at realrecoverytalk.com and Ben at realrecoverytalk.com. And ultimately, we want to help you turn your mess into your message, right, Ben?
Correcto mundo, Tom.
Correcto mundo.
Okay, nice, dude. Like Matthew McConaughey.
Joey, what's up, man?
Not man, doing good. I'm here, sunny South Florida, love it. Even though we're a little panicky over a little storm right now. My boy over here is calm as a cucumber. My boy Ben is worried about some waves. But
Ben's worried about, he wants to go out surfing.
Yeah, surfing.
Yeah.
You get a little.
So there's a storm, a brewing, Hurricane Lee. This seems to be like a pretty monstrous storm, but you know, my meteorological expertise is telling me that it's kicking a little north, Ben. Now, people up in New York, New Jersey area, y'all better hunker down because it looks like this bad boy might be coming for you.
We know how them spaghettis are, those spaghetti models.
Yeah, but the spaghetti models are all trending, and they've been trending this way for the last 5 days.
But when a storm gets to be a 4 or 5, it can literally bust through any frontal system. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
It does what it wants. It goes where it wants once it's that strong.
I've seen a couple of those videos. It is a little nerve-wracking when you see those crazy ones, dude. Yeah, I don't know.
So, Joey, tell us about yourself. Where are you from? What got you to Florida? Stuff like that.
Sure. So, originally from Long Island, New York, and came down here probably around 2012. Been in and out of treatment since I was 18 years old. So, figured I'd give Florida the old, try. And then I got sober in 2014.
How old are you?
I am 34.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do me a favor.
Yeah.
Don't pivot the mic.
Sorry. I apologize. But yeah, so 2014 I came down here and just really met some amazing people. Ben was one of the people that I've met and took the suggestions, man. And it's been amazing ever since.
I'll tell you, Ben told me last week, he says, hey, I got this guy, Joey, coming on the podcast. He works for Recovery Unplugged. I'm like, all right, cool. And whatever if Ben says somebody's coming on, like, they're coming on,
Yeah.
And he's like, he's got a lot of energy. I'm like, good. I love it. So,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Ben, why don't you
we
tell
go
us?
way back.
Way back, yeah. Oh, man.
So far, so I was just getting into the recovery field when I met you. I probably, if that was 2014, I was probably 3.5, 4 years sober, probably.
Something like that, yeah.
I imagine that's the time frame that I met you.
Yeah.
I just started working at a place called Unity.
Yes, you did.
Did you go there?
No, but I knew a guy that, Jared.
Yep.
Andy worked with Unity too.
Yeah. And I grew up with Jared,
yeah.
and we were working there together.
Yep.
I'm trying to think where I officially met you, because Jared ended up opening a place called Sober City.
Originally, Serenity House.
Serenity
House was the halfway, and then they had an IOP they used called Stepping Stones.
Mm-hmm.
right.
And that's where I was, and they graciously scholarshiped me because 26 came around really quick and, didn't have that insurance. So.
Okay, good. That's a good thing. And we haven't discussed this in a while.
No, that's a good.
2014, you come down from Long Island. And what were you doing? Drugs?
Correct. Yes. Drugs, alcohol, and yeah.
So you were what, 24 years old?
About 24, I was 25, turning 26. Yeah. 25.
So you had insurance when you came down?
Yeah, I had insurance that but I've overused it, man. I went to multiple detoxes, and then
so let's walk through that a little bit, because we don't cover that enough on this podcast. A lot of times, there's a saying down here that people will use their insurance card like an Amex card.
Yeah.
So walk us through a little bit of that journey. You said you overused your insurance. What was that like?
So basically, I would go into facilities, right, and pretty much recharge my batteries.
Starting at what age?
Oh, my first detox was when I was 18 years old.
So you were doing this 18 to
25, yeah.
25.
Yeah.
Right.
In and out, and just, pretty much just using my insurance card as just a safety net to not be sick. You know what I mean? Or just if my parents kicked me out of the house, or, it was just like a escape plan. And I abused it. I would meet other people who were doing the same thing as me, and meet other connections, right? And build relationships in the worst way, with, with malintent. So it would be, it was just, the worst form to use it.
Can I ask what insurance you had?
Yeah, I believe it was a Cigna policy.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I was waiting for you to say like Empire, New York or something like that.
Oh, no. No, I'm pretty sure it was a Cigna policy.
Yeah. So for the listeners, and we can just spend maybe a minute on this. Insurances are all over the board, and there's some insurance policies out there that when somebody sees that come across their desk, they're like, they see nothing but dollar signs.
Correct.
Because, and look, it's just the way that it is, and substance abuse and anything medical, some insurances pay better than others, So the way that people are able to utilize their insurance cards as safety nets and stuff like that is treatment centers are all businesses, and a business needs money, obviously, to operate. And so what was happening, and still happens to this day, but I'll tell you, 10 years ago, it was the Wild West.
Yes, it was.
People were bouncing from treatment center to treatment center to treatment center because every treatment center wanted the Cigna policy.
Yeah.
And that's just the way that it was. But your insurance got, Ben, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I was actually just talking to a guy downstairs about this a couple hours ago that just so happened to start working in the same place I did, Unity, back in 2013. It was weird. I had no idea. Do you know Ian Zimmerman?
Possibly. That's his
he's
face.
up at Futures. But it was funny because we were talking about how Obamacare kicked off in those years.
Yeah.
And insurance companies had no idea what was coming, but essentially it opened up the market to people going to treatment with insurance cards. So a ton of people recognized that this was happening, business people, not necessarily recovery people in it for the right reason.
Right.
And you would get these, for instance, like real estate moguls that are like, ooh, I can get in the treatment industry. Look at this Obamacare.
Yeah.
And when the marketplace opened with insurances, people were just grabbing them up, and insurance companies were paying. And then the insurance companies, a couple of years down the road, said, "What did we do?"
Right.
Like,
they created the monster.
They really did, yeah.
Yeah.
And then they reeled it all back in because the insurance realized, hey, we're paying out millions and millions and millions of dollars.
Florida definitely did a complete 180 in the industry. And a lot of things that we're seeing, that we saw in Florida, we're seeing in California.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, and, it's really cool today because, the mentality and the people that have gotten into this industry from that time where it changed I've met a lot of great people who have a lot of, just have great intent for their clients, right? So what evolved from that, I think, is causing really good treatment today.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because a lot of those people who were cycled and was experiencing firsthand that wild west side of Florida are now getting sober and now are becoming more involved in the industry and are completely aware of that and just killing it as far as like setting boundaries and, you know, just giving really good experiences to people.
I think it's important to bring up too, because I don't have to overcome this very often anymore, but several years ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, people were, oh, I saw about Florida in the newspaper and all over the news.
Documentary.
Yeah, I'm just going to call it what it is. Back in 2013 it started getting better. 2016, the FBI came out with the Sober Home Task Force, all this stuff. But look at it like this. Florida was the original rehab capital of the world.
Absolutely.
So the treatment culture down here, it exploded. And where anything explodes like that, people that are all about the money see opportunity, they run to it. Yeah. But what ended up happening again, Florida got cleaned up. And here's the thing, like Joey was saying, it is currently, in my opinion, the best place in the world to come for treatment, because now that it's cleaned up, you got to look at it like Florida was the first as far as like treatment exploding in a culture and recovery and AA and NA and all the A's on every corner at every hour. Yeah. There's clubhouses everywhere for 12-step stuff. Yeah. But essentially, Florida was the first to trip and fall. But now at this point, we're like Florida's the absolute leaders in the industry. Yeah. Obviously, we get a lot of people from out of state, and I just had this conversation with a mom that was looking for primary mental health for her son. And when I can't help directly, it was a case that we couldn't take. Yeah. Didn't meet our criteria. However, I'm still going to try and help her. And I was referencing all the mental health facilities down here. Substance abuse, mental health go hand in hand.
Yeah, of course.
And due to my relationships through the industry, she's like, I didn't even know programs like this existed. He's up in Illinois it was Pennsylvania, and they have nothing like you're describing. People are completely unaware of the quality that does exist in Florida.
Oh yeah. I definitely agree 100%.
So
yeah, it's amazing how far in strides we've made. That's impressive.
So when you were when did you realize that your insurance was done with you?
When the people when the marketer stopped calling. You know, those check-in phone calls that you would get. Hey bud, what's going on, man? Yeah, when those calls stopped, it gets it's pretty surreal.
Let's break that down and explain that real quick, because maybe our listeners didn't follow along, but like just to simplify it.
Sure.
That, you know, there would be, what do you want to call them? They're marketers.
Yeah,
in the treatment industry.
At that time, the people that were marketers really had, you know, ulterior motives, right? So yeah, marketers, I mean, they definitely put a really bad taste in your mouth from that back in the day. But yeah, marketers.
So what would happen essentially, because Joey just mentioned, the phone would stop ringing. A quote unquote, I'll call it a street marketer. A street marketer for the industry.
It's better. I like that.
Would know, hey, Joey has this Cigna card.
Yeah.
And he's on his parents' insurance, and he's 20 years old. He has 6 more years to go under this card unless his parents change jobs or whatever the case is. And they would like latch themselves onto Joey and be like, Joey, you're my friend. I want to help you.
Oh, yeah.
And they would move them from treatment center to treatment center. I'm just using your name as an example.
But completely, yeah.
And these check-in calls... Oh, you still got that Cigna card? You know, I remember back in the past.
That would be like the third question. They would always be like, hey, man, still in Florida? Oh, you're back in New York. And
that place didn't work? Why don't you try out this place?
Yeah.
And essentially what these people were doing was taking advantage of vulnerable adults. I'll just call it what it is, that are in active addiction, pretending to be their friend and shuffling them from treatment center to treatment center, illegally getting these cash kickbacks.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, that was the biggest part of it, was because there's nothing inherently wrong about follow-up calls. I mean, we do it.
Oh,
we call our people and check in on them, knowing that, look, a lot of people relapse. It's part of the process.
Right.
And, there's a reason for alumni teams. There's a reason for those follow-up calls, but there was a time where these follow-up calls, I think you said it well, how'd you say it? Their motives.
Yeah, ulterior motives.
They had ulterior motives because what was happening is they would have they would like start some sort of like LLC or something along those lines. And what treatment centers were doing back in the day was hiring these marketing groups, right? And, cutting checks to people. And hey, if you bring me 3 clients a month, I'm going to cut you a check for 15 grand.
Right.
And people were making bank. Now, I will say this, although it is it is illegal, I fall in the camp of there were people out there that didn't know. They didn't really know that it was illegal. There were people out there that did have good intentions that just got caught up in stuff that they didn't really know. Now, unfortunately, ignorance isn't a good defense, in the court of law. But, it brought the bad players to the game, and that's kind of where things went sideways.
And just to kind of touch on that too, I mean, and back then people were buying clients' insurance policies,
right,
and paying for their premiums, right, in order to go to their facility.
Yeah.
And kind of where you were coming from, I know a bunch of people that that happened to, but they got into treatment with that paid policy, but today they're still sober, right?
Right.
They took advantage of an opportunity because they had nothing else and they wanted to get sober. Granted, there's the dark side and then the light side of the situation where people will abuse that.
Right.
And then there's people who really just want to just get help and have no other option.
Right. I think it's important too, and I've mentioned this way long time. It's been forever since we've talked about this.
Yeah.
It just kind of, you being here brings back all these memories for me. You got to keep in mind with a lot of these facilities, the marketers were the ones breaking the law, the client brokers.
100%.
But on the back end of that, you actually had a treatment center. Generally, what clinical director, therapist, licensed mental health counselor, licensed clinical social worker is going to put their license on the line? What these street marketers were doing, you got to keep in mind there was a treatment center attached to that actually had professional people.
Right.
Now, to Joey's point, just because I got illegally marketed into a facility didn't mean that I didn't necessarily have a therapist that really cared,
right,
and really tried to help. And in a lot of cases, I know people too, that got broken around that are still sober today. So,
but you have to look at what it did to. There are those people that did take advantage of that and they did get sober. But it did develop a culture of the retreads, as we would call them, because people could come down here with the best of intentions, to come down and get clean and get sober for whatever reason. But because what was taking place at that time, they started having this mindset of, I don't necessarily have to get clean right now.
Yeah.
Because look at what's happened to me. I can go to this treatment center and I can go out and run for a few weeks and, do whatever the case, and then I can go back into another. They didn't know that coming down here.
Right.
But it was the culture that was developed for a period of time. So it really kind of did. But there were the people that, they genuinely wanted to be clean, and the opportunity probably was there. Now, there were some really, 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 really scummy people that would go as far as, hey, Ben, go to this detox center. I'm going to give you $500 and a bag of dope, and once you complete that detox center, that was happening.
Yeah, it was,
and it's sad. And there's a guy that's locked up now. I think he got locked up for 27 or 28 years. Kenny Chapman.
Old Kenny.
Yeah. And I mean, he was doing, I didn't know anybody going to that extent. But point is that, that stuff is, fortunately for here in Florida, it's been by the wayside. That hasn't happened here in a long time.
Just to kind of hit home the point, criminals are criminals.
Yeah.
Kenny Chapman, for instance, was a guy that he was trafficking women.
Yes.
Trafficking drugs.
He was a different type of evil.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. But there's actually an episode on American Greed about him.
Really?
Oh, really?
Yeah, but
Not surprised.
I mean,
I'll have
that's
to check that out.
And that is guys like Kenny Chapman is the reason that Florida for a little time had the reputation that it did. But
Right.
you got to, again, it's all turned around.
Yeah.
Florida was the first to hit its head. Florida was the first to have all this legislature put in place.
Yep.
All these laws put in place. It's
The strengths that came from it
Exactly.
are unbelievable, I think.
So back to you, Joey.
yeah.
Back to you. All right. So that's all the bad stuff. Your insurance company said basically, we're done with you. They did that while you were in Florida?
Yeah.
And then so you said, like, what? Like, because there's a saying down here that the recovery starts when the insurance stops.
I had, I don't know why or what it was, man, but I guess people cared about me. And I had two people that I was in detox at the time, and they came to the detox and they were just like, man, like, what are you willing to do? And actually the first question he said was, why should I let you in my house? And I was like, I don't know, because I want to stay sober. I'm still detoxing, man. I'm like on day 3, and this guy's showing up to my detox.
Is this Jared?
Like, yeah, it's Jared. Yeah, and if anybody knew Jared, Andia, that dude was a wild card.
Yeah,
I have a video of him. He used to come into the houses with a siren and put on the microphone and wake everybody up at like 7 in the morning. Anyway, he came to the detox, man. And he's like, why should I let you in? And that was a surreal moment because he didn't. And there was nobody else really asking that question because it was an automatic no. Nobody even showed up to ask that question for me, right? So for him to like be there and pretty much I just cried, and then he was like, I'll give you a shot. And then the first day I got to his house, he pulled up in his green truck, and I don't know if you remember that, the green truck, and he pulled out a lawnmower and said, all right, man. Let's get he pulled out a paintbrush for the fence and a lawnmower. He's like, all right, dude, you said you do whatever. Let's paint some fences and cut some lawns. And that's I'm so grateful for that. Yeah.
dude, that is Jared for you.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Oh man.
So what was going on in your mind though? So like take us into the first couple of weeks of your, well, how long were you at the detox? Just a few days before?
7 to 10 days, man.
Yeah,
7 to 10 days. They weren't keeping me any longer than I had to be.
Right. And you went to Jared's house and like, so if you can remember, was like, did you have the mindset of, I don't have insurance to rely on anymore?
That was definitely a factor. Absolutely. But does consequences keep me sober? Absolutely not. So you know what I mean? That was a thought, but thoughts like that don't stop.
Did you stay sober from then?
Yeah.
Okay.
So one of the first things I did, man, and this is just to give you an insight of my behavior and like the kind of person that I was that I went to a CVS, told them I was diabetic. At the time, I weighed about, if you can believe, 160 pounds at the time. I know times have changed, but told them I was diabetic. And by the way I looked, by pale, coming out of detox, it was very believable. So they gave me, my weapon of choice, which was needles. And
this is while you're at Jared's.
This is while I was at Jared's. Okay. Because my behavior to me was like getting high was like muscle memory to me. You know what I mean? Since I was 13 years old, drinking and drugging, that's what I've done, man. So my inner self told me like, you don't stand a shot. You know what I mean? Like, we know you, Joey. Like, I'd have these thoughts in my head, like, Joey knows Joey. Joey's going to go get high. And I had those, and I went and I got those rigs, man. And they sat in the closet for months until I got like 6 months. And then I think I I told my sponsor, and then I had a really good friend of mine that came down here, and me and him lived at Jared's together, and we got rid of him. But by that time, I was doing a lot of work on myself, man, and really giving this an authentic shot. So,
do you remember when you got rid of him? What was going on in your mind?
Yeah. Well, the day I got rid of them was a crazy story. So when I got rid of them, I also got into a car accident. So we had a head-on collision with a Ford F-150 by a guy named Phil. You probably remember Phil.
Yep.
Old Phil V. I don't know if I could say his
Don't say his
name.
last name.
Yeah.
Breaking anonymity, but Phil was driving, and I was in a car with somebody else, and they decided to play chicken with each other, except the other guy didn't know he was playing chicken. So he must have had his phone like looking down, and head-on collision, and I was in the front seat. And my first thought was to jump out of the car and get out of there because I didn't want to deal with any law enforcement. I was just getting sober, and there was some things that I probably that I didn't address back home yet. So I didn't want to deal with any type of, law. And I got out. I started walking across the street mangled. And then Jared was like, dude, you got to go back. You got to fill out a peace report, dude. You got to you need to go to the hospital. So that's what I did. I ended up getting the addict and alcoholic that I am. I went to the doctor. I went to the urgent care, and this guy came with me. He was like, dude, if I don't come with you, you're going to end up getting some drugs. And I'm like, okay. So we came in the doctor's office with me, sat through the whole appointment, walked out. As we were walking out, I said, oh, man, I left my phone in there. I went back in, got a prescription for Vicodin. And within 3 minutes, while the guy was starting the car, and I walked out. And then I guess it was the next day, I was on a bike, and someone said they saw me, and I had a huge smile on my face driving to the pharmacy to pick up the Vicodin. Yeah. And I picked up the Vicodin, brought it back to the halfway. And then that's when me and my friend, looked at each other, and I grew up with this guy that was my roommate, and I looked at him, he looked at me, he's like, Joey, he's like, do you really want to start this right now? And this time we had 6 months sober, and we just had this surreal moment, and was like, dude, I don't. And we flushed the Vicodin. Sorry. Utilities of North Palm Beach has got the drugs flushed in the toilet. I think you're not supposed to do that. But yeah, I think they say don't do that, but I did.
Lake Park was high for the next week.
So yeah, I flushed that, and then I got rid of the rigs that same day. So it was a pretty wild how that happened. But yeah,
that's crazy. That's a good story. Do you tell that a lot or no?
No, I got a couple of weird stories that I don't really tell because I always feel like people might think I'm crazy, But yeah,
that's all right though.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. So, after all that happened, so were you working steps and everything at this point?
Yeah, I was, man. I was working steps. And if you're familiar with my sponsorship family, we do steps paragraph by paragraph. So it was very slow. You know what I mean? It took me 6 months for a first step, which I'm super grateful for. I can't imagine, you know what I mean, doing it any other way for somebody like me. But yeah, at that time, I was in my first step, 6 months sober, still in my first step, but involved in AA, yeah.
How long did it take you to complete your steps?
Oh, about a year and 3 months, year and 2 months, something like that. A little over a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you got? How much time you have now?
A little over 9 years. June 4th, 2014 is my sobriety date. So a little over 9 years, 9 years and a couple months.
Okay.
Just celebrated 9 years.
So take us through unless you have anything.
No, I'm just listening away at this point. I'm sitting here in my head, reminiscing back to all these times.
Yeah.
Like I said, we go back, man. And when we met, like those were that was the point in my recovery where my life was like really starting to take a turn. My first 2 years of sobriety sucked bad. And then I got that job in the treatment industry when I was 2 years sober, and year 3 is like when I like really started to feel like I was going somewhere, so to speak, and getting traction. And I'm just sitting here in my head like playing all this like a highlight reel. I imagine us sitting at Oasis and stuff like that. Bringing back memories.
Yeah.
Memory lane.
Yeah. I mean, I remember the log cabin at 10 o'clock.
Yep.
And it was a candlelit meeting. And, man, I was super grateful for that meeting, dude, because like, you know, I've never been in like a candlelit meeting before. I don't know. Is that like a thing anywhere else? But I just remember like sitting in like a dark room and just hearing people like breathe. But I learned to love that meeting, dude, because they had a Thursday night meditation meeting. And in my sponsorship family, we go to a meeting every day, right? So like, and I was working in air conditioning with Robbie, dude. And like, we wouldn't get home until like 9:15 at night. And I'm like, oh, what do I got to do? I got to go to log cabin, man. I got to go to this meeting. And I'd be forced to sit through those spiritual meditation meetings. And man, it took me a little bit, but once it started to turn, I'm like, dude, I like that meeting.
You still go to a meeting every day?
Yeah.
Good for you, dude.
Crazy, yeah. It's actually really cool, man. I get to experience a lot of cool things.
Do you ever like wake up in the morning and you're like, man, I don't want to go to a meeting today?
Of course, dude. Yeah, of course. Yeah, man. Those, you know, there are definitely days like that. And if I told you there wasn't, I'd be a liar. And but I'll tell you what, man. There's so much that, you know, this program has given me, and there's so many things that I incorporate in my life today where I know I'm going to do this today, and I know I'm going to like grow as a human being because I'm always growing, dude. Like I said earlier when I called my sponsor, he's like, all I hear is me. Like, dude, like, you know, that in that moment, I'm like taking a step out of myself and being like, dude, this dude's right, man. I'm like, you know, like I need to, you know what I mean? Just be of service, man, because in working with others in our literature, man, it really clearly states, you know, how our purpose changes. So yeah, those days suck. And then, you know, I do certain things today.
So what was the pivotal moment for you when, you know, you had the car accident incident, you got the Vicodin prescription, you got rid of the rigs and everything. At what point were you fully bought in and like you knew, okay, this I'm so glad that I've gone through this process?
Sure. I believe it happened during my 5th step.
Which was when?
2015.
So you had about a year, maybe a little under a year?
I mean, up to that point, man, I was truly trusting the man that was guiding me, right? So it was a trust relationship where I just believed, you know, okay, I believe what he's saying to me, but I had to have that experience myself, right? And I believe that 5th step gave me that experience to where I could honestly say, like, dude, this thing is like the real deal. You know what I mean?
So for the audience, they don't know, and if you don't know, Ben and I did a step study type thing, and I don't remember what episode it is, but Ben goes into depth on step number 5 of the 12 steps. But for the audience, what was the 5th step for you? What did it entail?
So what that was for me was so the 4th step is, you know, we write that inventory, right? And you know, all those sections, I'm sure if you've explained it before. So, you know, the way we do our 4th step in my sponsorship family is that we sit with our sponsor Like, and we write. Like, I wrote with Robbie every day. You know what I mean? Like, I wrote with him. I didn't write when I got home. I spent like the day with him, and just writing, and he'd be like in the next, like, I've done my steps recently, so so this time, you know, I'm over his house, and you know where we were talking about earlier, I'm over his house. He's got the wife, he's got the kids running around. I'm writing, and you know, I spend a good week and a half, because like, also what's super important is that, like, for me, a lot of things still pop up in sobriety, right? So I still got a lot, you know what I mean? My list still could be strong as strong as when I did my first 4-step, right? So there I am, just writing, and then I'm gonna refer to my first 4-step, and again, same deal. I'm in his van. He's working in the he's doing air conditioning. I'm in the work van, writing. And then the 5th step, right? And just having that moment, because like I said, I have complete trust in that man, right? So I'm just, boom, everything. There's nothing I didn't leave out. So to have everything come out, man, and to take that hour to myself, genuinely, because I was being as authentic as I could, because I had no other option, really. I've tried every other way to get sober. So, man, that was, for me, that was that moment. You know what I mean? Just completing, just saying everything on my 4-step and having that hour.
What's the 5th step? Like, how's it read?
Admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially what you're doing, you're taking your 4-step that you, like what you shared, just writing. You write all this stuff down, and again, refer back to that episode, whichever one it is. It'll say step 4, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
You take all that information that you've written, and then you basically sit with your sponsor and read it with him.
Yeah.
And go over what you wrote in the 4-step. And that would be your 5th step. And then some people, it sounds like your sponsorship family gives you an hour afterwards to kind of sit and decompress, and because it's a big deal, you know. Essentially, what we're doing is we're taking. Ben, why don't you share this? Like, when you're taking your, well, go ahead.
I think what Joey touched on, as far as like he was talking about trust with another man, and you know, how many of us walk through life presenting this stage character, the person we want everybody to think that we are, when indeed we've partaken in practices and done unfavorable things in our life and our active addiction, things that are embarrassing, things that hurt our pride, things that scare us, etc. But when it talks about admitted to God, you know, God already knows. If there's a God, he can see everything already. We admitted to ourselves, unless we were eating too much Xanax, we know what we did. But to another human being, I think what that is there's a level of courage that it takes to disclose. Joey said he disclosed everything. Didn't hold anything back. Every deep, dark thought, whether about himself, his self-esteem, other people, whatever the case may be, letting all that out to another human being. There's something about, I just told this man everything. With this human being, there's nothing else for me to hide.
Yeah.
And that there's a sense of freedom in that. Like, who else gets to experience that? Where with somebody, you can be like, I literally told this man everything that came to mind that really bothers me about me. You know, and I don't know, does that kind of sum it up?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you did a good job.
Thanks.
Yeah. It's amazing, because like Ben said, man, like having those relationships are like rare, man. Like, I know, like, I'm not like that with my family. You know what I mean?
Exactly, dude. Like, I've been hooked on this thing like the last like 6 months in my head, and I've been sharing this in meetings. I was reflecting back on my fourth and fifth steps. And even more prevalent to me nowadays is the ones that I've heard from other men, where I'm their sponsor. And they sit down and they disclose all this stuff. I disclose things to them too, so I can be an example and show them as well.
Of course.
But there is a bond. Once you've heard or shared a fifth step with somebody, that's a bond that can never be broken.
Keys to the safe.
Dude,
it's like you got everything.
Like it's a unique experience in life. I don't know how else to put it. Like if you haven't experienced it, I don't know what to tell you.
It's what sold me, man. That was that experience that was just like, you know what, dude? These people aren't lying. This thing is like powerful. So
you got a Recovery Unplugged shirt on.
Yeah, dude. Unplugged is it's actually really cool because I have a pretty strong connection with like music and stuff. So
in what capacity?
Dude, it's kind of wild because my taste of music is pretty unique as far as people don't really expect what I listen to.
Oh, this ought to be good. Hang on.
I listen to...
Wait, hang on. Don't say it.
Okay.
I want us to try and guess.
Okay.
Dang, dude, I don't know.
What do you think?
I would say like headbanger death metal.
I do enjoy a good heavier music for sure. Love it.
See, I could see him being the kind of guy that listens to everything. I could see country, EDM. I could see it all, dude.
Everything but country. I'm starting to get into more country.
I was gonna say either the heavy like headbanger death metal, which I love, or like classical.
Ooh, I do love a good symphony.
Yeah.
I do. I enjoy a good like
a little Bach.
Yeah, like a synthesizer mixed with like some organs. It gets me. Yeah.
So what do you listen to?
So I listen to like some heavier stuff, and it's wild because the connection is kind of to me it really blows my mind, right? Because I don't know about you guys, but like when I was younger, I was always attracted to this kind of like deeper music, kind of like, you know what I mean? I don't know how to really explain it. I mean, one of my first albums was the Green Day Dookie album.
All right.
And
did you just see them? They came here.
No, but have you ever really listened to Dookie?
No.
It's all about addiction.
Okay. I believe it, yeah.
And I'm like, dude, I'm like 8 years old and I'm like loving it, right? And I have this weird, strong connection. You know, Nirvana, you know, all like a lot of my idols, Pearl Jam, all these things that I felt so connected to when I was like super young. And I'm like, why do I feel so connected to this music? You know, and then as I'm getting older, you know, I bought my first Slipknot CD in 1999. And, you know, Corey, he's got like 12 years sober, dude.
Yeah.
And there's like Lamb of God, the lead singer, he's got sobriety, and like all these musicians and all these albums. And now that correlation to when I'm sober and I'm re-listening to those albums. And it's like, there's such strong connection to addiction, substance abuse, mental health.
Yeah.
And it's so wild because like while we're in addiction, music is super influential. Ben, you love working out.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you're working out, dude, you probably put on something to get you going.
It depends on the day, but definitely.
But it can, right? So music can
Absolutely.
influence, right? How you're feeling. If I'm listening to some DMX, I'm gonna do some DMX stuff, which is probably not good. You know, and if I'm listening to something just, you know, some bromance, just like heavy, you know what I mean, stuff, I'm going to like get pumped. And I'm going to like, you know what I mean? That stuff pumps me up. So that correlation to when I was younger to today and how much then that, like, you know what I mean? It just felt like a foreshadow of my life.
Yeah.
Isn't that wild?
I can relate to that because growing up, I listened to a lot of like 80s hair bands.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so like Quiet Riot, Def Leppard, Rat, you know, all the hair bands. And I honestly to this day I love them, but it does elicit an emotion. You know, if a certain song comes on and it'll take me right back to Tony's Lounge when I'm sitting there and, you know, and where I drank, everybody, we all listened to it, like Bon Jovi, Def Leppard, Quiet Riot, all these bands. And we would just party and jam out, you know, morning, noon, night, it didn't matter. And even still to this day, and one of my all-time favorite bands is Def Leppard. And every time they come on, it takes me back there. Yeah. And, you know, sometimes it's like I'll make the conscious effort to change it because I'm not in a good headspace, you know, and I'm like, I don't want to listen to this right now because I have a lot of good memories with that stuff. And for me, I don't want the good memories to come back into play because then it kind of takes me back to, you know, oh man, I wish I could do that again. You know, oh man, you know, look at me now. I have to be responsible and yada, yada, yada. Yeah. You know, so music by far, and if anybody says anything different, like it is by far probably one of the most influential things in people's sobriety, especially if it's something that you grew up listening to. And for us sitting here, like we're all in our 30s, music back then was a big deal because growing up, you have to think we didn't have social media. We didn't have, you know, the internet was really just starting to come on the scene. So we didn't have, you know, I had music, you know, and I remember sitting on my back patio when I heard Nate Dogg for the first time.
That's a classic.
Well, generally speaking, if you ask people like about a certain song that they like or a certain band or a genre of music, they can typically tie an experience from their life to it.
100%.
Right.
Like there's certain times in my life where, like, for instance, I wouldn't like electronic music, EDM, if I didn't go to raves. Yeah. But like you, like I'll still listen to that music.
Yeah.
But I can only take it in small doses. Like I'll listen for like 15 minutes and then I'm like, you know what, I'm going to put something else on. Yeah. Because while it brings back that like euphoric recall, at the same time, I'm like, oh man, I can't bring myself too far back to that and get sucked into this, or I'm going to find myself at the rave again. Like, you know, it's
glow sticks, just like with the hand ones that you just do in the people's faces.
Oh, see, that happened after my time. I'm dating myself here. People came out with them weird gloves that later.
Yeah, those weird gloves.
The cool thing is, though, seeing a lot of these people, you know, that we looked up to them then, and they were obviously not sober at the time, but we didn't know. They are today.
Yes.
You know,
a lot of people.
You know, Slipknot, Lamb of God. I remember listening, man, and I would listen to them a lot. Super Joint Ritual, you know, a lot of these bands. And, you know, it was the thing, like, you almost felt like, because we would like build big mud trucks, you know, because I grew up in Western Pennsylvania.
Okay.
And so we'd have like cases of beer and, you know, we're working on trucks and everything and going out to the mud bogs and doing all this stuff, all the while listening to this music. And it's almost like you're drinking with them, you know, with the band, you know, they're like there with you and, you know, and then, you know, fast forward to today, you find out that a lot of these people, you know, are sober now. And when I found out Motley Crue was sober, I was like, whoa.
Ozzy. I mean,
you know,
it's crazy.
So, but anyway, Recovery Unplugged, how long you been there?
For a little over 2 years now.
What'd you do? So when did you get involved in the treatment business?
Years ago, probably around 7 years ago. I was probably like 2 years sober because I did like the whole, like, you know, get sober and do demolition deal. Everybody usually gets a paid labor job. At least when I was getting sober, everybody had like a paid labor job. And then I did.
Yeah. What do you mean? What'd you do?
Just like demolition. I would like literally just pick up cinder blocks from like we would just take down like, you know, like back like awnings and stuff. Like we would do like just construction.
Yeah.
Right. But I was just like you know, the kind of like the cleanup guy or whatever. And then I was even cutting trees for a little bit. And then I started doing HVAC with Robbie, which is air conditioning. Yeah.
And then you decided you wanted to get involved in treatment?
Yeah. I traded the chainsaw for a chair. And but yeah, I mean, honestly, at some point in some of those days, I wish I did have a chainsaw because like, you know, there's a lot of mental that comes with it too. There's like, you know, yeah, working in treatment can definitely take a toll on like a mental.
So what do you do for Recovery Unplugged?
So I do business development for Recovery Unplugged, right? I work with a lot of great facilities, and I get to really show people and give people like a firsthand experience of coming to Recovery Unplugged, which is a genuine place too. You know what I mean? We love having people get experience with us. Yeah.
This kind of comes full circle to what we were talking about earlier, where this is what he's doing now, which is essentially business development, marketing for a reputable treatment center. Recovery Unplugged's been around quite a while.
Since 2014. Yeah.
2014. Yeah. They got multiple locations nationwide. They're known for their music stuff. But with that being said, like, sounds to me like our journey, all three of us sitting here saw what not to do in this industry.
Yes.
And now what Joey does now at a professional capacity, he does it professionally.
Yes.
You know.
And that was something huge for me because I used to work for a place called Reprieve. Reprieve is also, I consider, you know, you guys all in the same category. Reprieve is an amazing place.
Yeah, I
Rock
love
Reprieve. I mean, it's like I feel like you guys are like sister companies the way you guys operate so passionately. But Reprieve also had that that factor of family and just client care, right? And treating everybody as family. So when I went to Recovery Unplugged, that was like a personal requirement for me. Because if I didn't feel that way, the way I felt when I worked at Reprieve, I couldn't go somewhere else. And because I'm a terrible liar, so like I couldn't be like, come to, you know what I mean? We're a great place, and I'm like, I can't do it. You know what I mean? I have to, you know what I mean? Believe in what I'm doing.
Right.
So yeah, that was big for me going to there.
Have you been to New York since you came back down?
Yeah, a couple times. Yeah, I have. Not too often, man. Again, there's really very few people that really that would really make me make the trip. You know.
Did you like growing up there or not really?
Yeah, man, I had a lot of experiences, man. I got to, you know, do a lot of like things and I wouldn't be who I am today without those experiences, right? So would I move back there? No. But you know, but am I grateful for it? Absolutely, man. There's definitely
How old were you for 9/11?
Oh, geez, 9/11.
You would have been 12, probably.
I was around 10, 12, 11, 12. Yeah, right there. I remember where I was. I was in middle school. I was in social studies class. And I remember it was actually really crazy because I remember there was teachers just pouring out of the classrooms like crying because like somebody had, you know, a lot of our, you know, in our school, somebody had family members that were firefighters or were working in there. My uncle's a firefighter. So like that was like concerning for me. And like I'm like 11, 12 years old. So it was like I didn't really grasp the extent of the situation, but seeing those teachers crying, I was like, oh my God, this is definitely, and you could see the smoke like from the skyline. It was kind of crazy. Yeah.
I remember where I was in wood shop, and it was kind of the same experience. So I grew up outside of Pittsburgh, so I was probably 6 hours from New York City. But yeah, it was, you know, kind of the same thing. And, you know, I'm 39, so, you know, I think I would have been 17 maybe at that time.
Oh, yeah, you're a little older.
And it was like, I didn't really fully comprehend what was going on. But then I quickly found out, okay, this is kind of a big deal, I suppose. You know, I didn't know what the World Trade Centers were. You know, I just saw these buildings collapsing. But the reason I bring that up is, and this is totally off topic. One, because you live there. But Levi asked me last night. I picked him up from gymnastics, and we're on our way home, and he's like, Dad, why did those people fly the planes into the buildings in New York?
Oh, is he learning about that in school?
I'm like, what are you? He's 7. I'm like, how did you even hear about that? And he was like, oh, mom was talking to me about it. And I'm like, so I haven't talked to her about it yet. But I'm like, why? I mean, not that I'm against, like, and I just told him, I said, look, there's people in this world, there's bad people in this world. And, you know, they were, and I, you know, talked about terrorists and all that stuff and, you know, whatever. I don't know. You know, then there's a ton of conspiracy theorists out there. We could put our tinfoil hats on and go down that road. But,
yeah.
I don't know. It was kind of like, you know, it's almost like one of the birds and the bees talk. You kind of don't know how to respond to it. Because then I'm like, well, man, I got to really be careful how I answer this because he's kind of a scaredy cat, you know? So I don't want him to think next time we go on an airplane that we're going to fly into a building or something, you know? Lord. So Ben, where were you?
Mr. Burke's history class.
Mr.
Burke.
Sadly, the part that I will admit is I was already far. My junior year of high school, I was roasted. I was far into my addiction. My junior year of high school was probably one of the worst years of my life. Yeah, just to be point blank. Yeah, and the selfishness, self-centeredness, if that's what you want to call it, when that happened, I remember it happening. But dude, I was so far in my addiction, like I did not grasp the weight of it, nor did I care really. I mean, I won't say I didn't care, right? But dude, I was so far gone, like I was in my own hellhole, just calling it what it is. And looking back, I'm like, dang man, because I realize the gravity of it now. Yeah, and I'm like, the part that I have a hard time wrapping my head around is like, how was I at a point in my life where that didn't impact me more than it did? And Mr. Burke's class too, like, so there was a day that I forget, I was probably skipping school, like eating acid or something. Yeah. But apparently the class had a discussion about me in his class the day that I was absent. And my buddies come to me. Class. My buddy Casey comes up. Casey and Steve, they were my two best friends in high school. They came to me the next day. They're like, yeah, man, we were talking about you in Mr. Burke's class. Mr. Burke asked, who's the worst kid? And they were all like, brought me up. Like, I was the biggest stoner, drug addict in the school. Like, oh, man.
They were talking about that yesterday. I think they called them superlatives or something.
What?
Superlative. Remember Maya and Nicole were talking about the most likely to succeed, most likely to become a junkie, Ben Bueno's pictures.
Yeah. No, I was already a junkie, not become one.
Or most likely to not get clean and sober, Ben Bueno's.
Yeah. Dude, high school was sad for me, though, dude. I can honestly tell you those were the worst years of my life.
Really?
Yeah. Internally, without a doubt, there's no question. Yeah. High school was so bad. It's painful to talk about even. I'm like, because people talk about it being some of the best years of their life. Like, there was nothing about high school that I can remember that was like enjoyable.
I mean, I didn't mind it. To me, they were kind of just, I don't know. I made them work, I guess, you know? Yeah. I graduated though with a class of 100 people, you know? So when I came down here and I started seeing these people, you know, these graduating class of like 600-700 people. I'm like, what the hell? You know? Yeah. I graduated 98 out of 102. You know? Yeah. So I was most likely to not succeed.
Was that the official title for you?
No, but okay. You know. So.
That's crazy.
Joey, man, this has been fun.
Yeah. No, I'm honored, man.
You got good energy.
Dude.
I like funny people.
He's always had good energy.
I don't know, dude.
Just go with the flow type guy.
Yeah, I'm just you know, grateful, man. It's awesome.
So you just recently took on pickleball.
I did.
Did you seem laid up?
Yeah, I've been working on my backhands. You know, dude, it's been really fun, man. I actually have a really good time. We all, you know, we joke around. We have a really cool crew. A lot of, you know, the people I hang out with are all similar energy, so we're all just like.
Do you play with Vinny? Vinny Bocassi or how?
No, I play with Dan Warren. I don't know if I'm supposed to drop.
Yeah,
a
no,
last
we
name.
love Dan.
W.
Has Dan been on the podcast? No.
I was
Who
gonna
is
get
that?
him. I was gonna get
From
him today.
Reprieve.
Oh, Daniel?
Yeah.
I don't know his last name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna
Daniel.
bring him over today, but he's going to the Marlin game tonight. So
Oh, they're doing some big recovery thing there.
yes, yeah, they're going to the.
Right? I should
Marlin
have took
game.
my son there. Oh well.
That's a possibility. I think they still have some tickets. If
I'm
you
sure.
know,
Yeah.
I could, after.
What time's the game start?
So
7:30.
like 6 something. I think they're taking the Bright Line at like 4 p.m. But yeah, I mean, however,
do the tickets come with the bright line too?
no.
Oh,
The Bright Line's separate. They're
was
like,
gonna-
"Oh, Joey, I got you some tickets." I'm like, "Oh, awesome!" Because like I work for Recovery Unplugged, so I can like Unplugged will like hook me up with like some tickets, like either Miami Heat and stuff. So I'll give like Dan some tickets and stuff. He's like, "Oh, Joey, I finally got you some tickets." I'm like, "Awesome." He's like, "Yeah, but the Bright Line you got to pay for." I was like,
the bright
"Thanks,
line
dude."
ain't cheap.
Bright Line is not cheap, man. It's not cheap, but a lot of people are going tonight. It's a big recovery thing tonight. Yeah.
Man, I should try and go. Ben, you think you can get out or no?
Nah, Western has football tonight. I have to make the gym and get this done.
Yeah, I got a fantasy draft at 8 anyway, dude. Got to make sure I got the good Wi-Fi for that.
Oh, there you go. Who you pulling for your quarterback?
Ooh,
Quarterbacks don't.
probably
matter
just,
that.
I like Josh Allen, man. He's a
Yeah,
solid
he's
one. Jalen Hurts, but
Kirk Cousins is my man, dude.
you would love Kurt,
Bro,
he is a good quarterback. I like Kurt.
Did you
too.
watch Quarterback on Netflix, though? Did we talk
I don't
about this?
think
on
I
We
have.
did briefly.
Oh, yeah, we talked about it on a previous episode. But, dude, he is a down-to-earth,
I know,
good
yeah.
dude. He's a nerd. He's a good family man. Like,
He's a very cool dude. As a part of a quarterback, he's just like you said,
Yeah,
just like an all around good guy.
he doesn't have the personality that you would think a quarterback does.
Ben, no offense, but this is fantasy football, right? I'm not picking guys based on their good merit outside of, but he's a good quarterback.
Oh, they had the biggest comeback in
They did.
NFL history.
They did. I'm still gonna go with Josh Allen.
Fair enough.
I'm gonna stick with Josh.
Yeah, that'd be a solid.
I know.
I think you should get Kenny Pickett, but
Ooh, Pickett. I like Pickett a lot too, man.
he's good.
I do
He was
like
on
Pickett.
fire in the preseason.
I know.
Only played 5 drives though.
I know, man. We'll see.
Look out, Steelers, baby, they're coming. Who's your team? You a Giants fan?
I'm a Jets fan.
Jets fan.
I'm a
All right,
Jets.
there you go. You
Daniel,
got Aaron
Daniel
Rodgers.
Warren's a Steelers fan too.
Is he?
Oh, dude, you
I
and
didn't
him
know
would have
that.
been vibing. Oh yeah, he's a big Steelers guy. But I'm a Jets fan, and we're looking pretty good this year. So,
We got Aaron Rodgers. That'll be fun.
got Sauce. We got Aaron, dude. We got Dalvin.
Yep.
Even
I can't believe
even,
you got Dalvin.
I know, right? Yeah, it was a steal. Even though he's getting a little older, but whatever. I'll take him. He's good.
Hey, anytime you guys got Heat tickets,
dude,
real.
for sure. Yeah, I think I invited you.
You did, yeah.
a couple times.
It's just so, dude.
I
It's so
know.
hard for me to go with the kids.
Yeah,
and
the
stuff.
kids.
I love. Last year was the biggest year. I've never been one to get into basketball. We need to wrap this up too. I've never been one to really get into basketball, but after this past year watching the Heat play, I'm like, I'm on it now,
Solid,
dude.
dude.
I'm like, I want to go. I want to get, every game possible. I took my son to one game, but they're an on fire team. And hopefully
Fun to
they
watch.
can. Yeah, but
Fun to
man,
watch. Jimmy Buckets.
Jimmy Buckets.
The Buckets. Yeah, I know. Yeah, for sure. But I'm grateful for you guys. Thanks for inviting me out, man. It's been awesome.
Yeah, it's been
good
awesome
time.
having you on. You come on anytime. Ben, any final thoughts?
Nah, man, good energy today. Tom and I have been on our other episodes, on rampages. I feel the last couple days.
This is
Yeah.
going
I listened
on.
back to them though. It don't sound too crazy.
No, they're not.
Yeah.
No, they're good, man. I like it.
All right, thanks, Joey. Appreciate it.
I'm excited for your outro. I heard the intro. Now I want to hear the outro.
The outro. There ain't a whole lot to it. All right. That is it for this episode of Real Recovery Talk. Thank you for tuning in on the podcast app. In the end, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, you could always reach us, Tom at realrecoverytalk.com and Ben at realrecoverytalk.com. And in the end, we want to help you turn your mess into your message. That is it. We will see y'all later.
Wiki.
Wiki.